soon realized that I think more than passion, more than expertise, it was a value system that, if when matched, really took us a long way together, and if didn't, it just fall apart. And so now I think that's my biggest criteria. First piece is, are you a cultural match or not? Do we align on our values? Then we go to expertise and experience, because you may be amazing, but I don't really want a brilliant jerk on my team who does not align with what we care about or how we want to do it.
Hello and welcome to the Startup Operator podcast. I'm Roshan Cariappa. Rashi Narang is the founder and CEO of Heads Up for Tails, a pet accessories brand that she started way back in 2008 when the category was almost inexistent. Heads Up for Tails has done phenomenally well since. They're clocking over 100 crores in revenues. They have over 50 plus stores across India, and they recently raised Series A funding of $37 million. In this conversation, we trace Rashi's journey from identifying a niche to building out a category all by herself. There are plenty of insights in this conversation on product, branding, and distribution that could be really useful to you. So let's check out this episode of the Startup Operator podcast with Rashi Narang. Hey Rashi, welcome to the Startup Operator podcast. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited for our conversation.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to this conversation. I've heard the founding story of Heads Up for Tails, and it's super inspiring. You got a new pup, Sarah, and you try to find products for a birthday, get super frustrated by all of the lack of options. And so you start creating some of these products yourself. When did you think that this could actually turn into a real business? I ask this because pet products and accessories at the time that you started was not even a category, right?
Yes, I think first couple of years were really hard. There really wasn't a customer at all, and people were wondering why they needed some of this merchandise. They hadn't ever seen it before. They hadn't ever been exposed to it before, and a lot of them said, "Look, we've had dogs all our life. We've never used any of these products." And so it was a lot of building education, awareness about how our lives have changed, how dogs that were running free or had large spaces or had a lot of stimulation for all of their senses, whether it was variety in food, whether it was variety in play or walking areas, or so many things that they were doing differently. And now dogs are confined to small apartments with the same walk path and the same walk routine and many times the same food, and maybe nothing to stimulate them, and nothing, no one was really focusing on their nutrition, their wellness, understanding the breeds and the species for who they are and what they really need. So it's taken many, many years. I started out really tiny, homegrown, and it was so small for so long, Roshan. And then I think I started to see, but I think that I knew that we were way ahead of the market and someday it'll catch up. And it's now started too. So it's been a very, very long wait and quite a difficult one.
Yeah, it's certainly hard, right? When you don't have anyone else to compare yourself to, and it's a slow trickle at the beginning. Do you have some advice for people who are early in a category? How do they develop conviction and how do they keep plugging away at their idea?
I think you need a lot of patience and perseverance for one, because I think people start with big dreams, but I feel like they give up too soon. And sometimes when you're early, you just need to wait it out. You need to persevere. You need to keep building on, your dream. And I think that, what I did was I took the time to really build a very solid foundation, which meant that, building out products, testing them out, building relationships with our customers, trying to really gain a lot of insights through design thinking, through empathy led conversations, understanding their pain points, their challenges, understanding what is really going on. And no matter where you are in your journey, there's always so much that you can do, whether it's strengthening your front end, your back end, your supply chain, just laying a solid foundation so that when the time comes and it's time to soar, you really have done all the groundwork. So hang in there is what I'd say, and continue to persevere and build this one brick at a time if that's where you're at in your journey.
Right. And what makes the story even more incredible is that Heads Up for Tails is a premium brand in a niche category, right? So that's like subset of a subset. Did you ever think that you should perhaps, widen your total addressable market, maybe go down market a bit, work on some other types of products and so on?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, we have done that over the last couple of years. So we did start out extremely niche, really top of the pyramid. But over the last couple of years, we've really gone down that pyramid, tried to reach out to many more customer segments, introduced a lot of new price points, different products, just trying to, it was just too small and we wouldn't have been able to survive if we had not done that. So it's been quite nice to see that growth come in by widening our product offerings, and also just just this where we're opening our stores, how we're running our ads, just the audiences that we're targeting. We're definitely trying to open up the funnel.
Right. And through all of these trials and tribulations, right, during the early days and years, perhaps, there's always one or two believers, right? I mean, can you think of those instances where somebody or something happened and, that kind of reinforced your conviction a little more? Because I know that it was pretty hard for you, right? I mean, you've spoken about being rejected by more than 200 retailers, right? Pet stores and so on. And there's also this story of you relocating to Singapore in between, right? And you had to manage the business remotely. My gosh, I mean, that would have been really, really tough, right? So, yeah, who were the believers and what were those, key moments when you kind of realized that, yeah, this is it?
I think that there were lots of cheerleaders along the way, friends, family, customers who said, look, this is lovely. It's helped me change my relationship with my pet or deepen it, or hey, my pet has felt better because of XYZ product. So, all of those were really big moments. But I'll tell you that I think the biggest thing that we all have to start doing is tuning inwards a little more and listening to our own gut. And the gut speaks so softly that you can barely hear it. You really have to like. And so I think that despite the cheerleaders, the days were so hard, and I just felt so helpless many times about how do I make this happen. But I think it was that little voice that kept me going on, and I'm so grateful for all of the support, even the early angel investors who decided to back us, so many friends and families who chose to support us, customers who chose to buy from us. And it was all those little moments that added up to something and just kept me going. So, yes, it is special.
So, what is your advice to folks who are listening? And I'm sure plenty of them have ideas of their own that they want to turn into businesses, but they're stuck in their ideating or the spreadsheet phase, right? How can one convert their passion into a business?
I believe that more than defining your what, or rather, before defining your what and how, you need to define your why. What is it that you really, what is the larger impact that you want to make? Why do you really want to do it? Because most businesses start with the what and they say, okay, here's what I want to do and here's how I'm going to do it. But why do you want to do this? I think a lot of people miss that, and a lot of people miss thinking about their larger mission, their larger vision. And on difficult days and on difficult periods, and that every business goes through, it's really the why that keeps you waking up and getting out of bed and moving on. So yes, those spreadsheets are so important and those business plans are so important for you to define and really detail out. But spend some time on what do you really want to do. I mean, why do you really want to do this? And then, of course, a lot of things will start to flow.
Right. So you sound a lot like a product person, right? Very passionate about the problem that you're trying to solve and so on. Did you have to learn up all of the other stuff, I mean, the more boring stuff, or did you have like a natural flair for that kind of stuff as well?
Oh gosh, no, not at all. I am more of a creative person, and so I think my strengths are really on that side when it comes to stores, design, experience, packaging, product. And I absolutely do not like some parts of the business like accounting and finance and compliances, and all of that just takes away my energy. It does not fill me up at all. And so I think that those were the teams that I started to hire for first so that I could spend my time doing what I know best, and really having other experts who thrive on Excel sheets and thrive with on numbers to really come in and look after those parts that I didn't believe I was that good at.
Right. And every founder makes those early hiring mistakes, right? Sometime or the other, right? What do you learn from those mistakes and how do you hire people in your organization today? What is something that is super important for you?
When we started out, we couldn't get a lot of talent who wanted to move into the pet industry. People just hadn't heard of it. even now people think that they're going to be working in the back of a pet shop. They can't visualize that there is actually more infrastructure. There's a head office. There's teams around this. And so I think initially I just started to hire people who showed a little bit of passion towards pets. But I soon realized that I think more than passion, more than expertise, it was a value system that, if when matched, really took us a long way together. And if it didn't, it just fall apart. And so now I think that's my biggest criteria. First piece is, are you a cultural match or not? Do we align on our values? Then we go to expertise and experience, because you may be amazing, but I don't really want a brilliant jerk on my team who does not align with what we care about or how we want to do it. So you may be amazing at what you do, but that is so important to us. And so first screening is culture, and I think that holds us definitely in good stead and is working. And even with that, we're constantly refining what kind of questions do we ask, what are we really looking for, how do we probe deeper, and we still make mistakes, but I think that we're getting much better at understanding who we want. And I think it's just a journey, because also you may screen for culture, but then the second level of expertise, it keeps changing at different points in your journey. And if there are people that somebody who's take a team that may take you from 0 to 1 may not be the team that can take you from 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 or 5 to 10. And so I think that we're really looking for people who can be lifelong learners, low ego, curious, of course passionate and empathetic, and who really care about the cause, but those who really want to stay on the top of their game, because businesses are evolving so fast. And right, so you have to be so agile, so adaptable, and just really on top of what is going on in your field to really be out there and do a good job. So lots of moving parts there, but hoping to constantly work on getting better on hiring.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you can get your early team to scale, then that is the dream, right? I mean, seriously. So let's talk a little bit about customer acquisition. How do you get your first few customers during the early days, and how has that changed at various stages of the journey itself, right? So maybe you could talk about the early customers and then talk about how things changed when you hit maybe a crore in revenue, then 10 crores and 50 crores and so on.
Sure. Early first customers were all from our pop-up stores. We started taking part in Diwali exhibitions and Christmas fairs just to test the product, stay close to the customers, get a lot of feedback, and just understand what's happening there. And so first many hundred customers really were from there. And then I think as we started to open our stores, many more customers came into the fold from the stores. We also did start the online piece back in 2008, but I think it was slow. It wasn't really an area of focus for many years. So it was running, but it wasn't where we were spending a lot of time. And I think that changed with COVID, and there was just so much more emphasis there. So it's been exciting to scale that digital piece and reach so many customers that we don't know physically, that and build relationships with them in a very different manner. So yes, that's how the acquisition piece has been going on. We've been telling stories, sharing a lot of our education with customers to add value to their lives, so that their relationships with their pets can become better through social media and any other channels that we can find. So there has been acquisition, through all of these different spaces. The online piece, the social piece, brand awareness across stores, events, community efforts, etc.
Right. So let's talk about retail, because I think you don't have a background in retail. So that's something that you've figured out through first principles. And I'm sure a lot of the audience who are listening as well don't really have a background in retail as well. So what works in retail? When do you know whether a store will work or not? Or what are those preconditions for choosing to invest in a store?
I think we have learned that biggest rule in retail is location, location, location.
Of course.
It's an old principle, but every time that we have defied it, we have lost and we have gone wrong. And it has just taken so long to build up that store and get people to know about it and get that audience to come. And where we picked strong prime locations, those are the stores that do the best for us. So I think yes, that's the first rule in retail, and there's a reason why it's globally known. So anyone who's looking to do that, that's really the first thing that you should consider. Where can a lot of people see you? Where can you be located so that it's convenient for people to come? For a category like us, we've tried malls, we've tried high streets, we've tried neighborhood markets where people would come for their everyday stuff. And all of them seem to work in different ways. And the product mix is slightly different, the customer is slightly different. So it's been very interesting to understand that part as well.
Right, you're different from the conventional D2C brands that we see today in that you are doing the reverse journey, right, from offline to online. Because I kind of get it. I think it's a very differentiated experience. People aren't really looking per se. I mean, it's more of an indulgence as well, so it's very hard to translate that experience online effectively, right? So how are you bringing that experience online right now?
So you're right when you said that we are doing we were focused on more online, and I think more offline. And the reason for that was we created so many new products which are India first, so people aren't really searching for them. They're not searching for any of these, or at least they weren't searching for any of these products, and so we had to create that experience where we allowed them to come in and to discover a lot of these new products and talk to them about where are they struggling, how can we help. And I think that now, because we've been around for a while and people are familiar with many of these products, the online piece has been easier. The store network has also grown, so the online, again, people are familiar with the brand. They may come once and then they start to order their regular essentials. But online, I think that the exciting part is that you can feel that you have so much more retails, you have so much more space. Like in our stores, we have to curate, and even online we curate, but there's only so much physical product that you can add to an offline store. But online, our catalogs can be bigger, the journeys can be a little bit more different, based on whether it's breed or concern or price points or what life stage your dog is at or cat is at. So it's just interesting to be able to make slightly different journeys and more personalized journeys for customers, which we anyway doing at the retail level, because our we have quite a large repeat audience. Our store team knows a lot of our customers by first name, they know their dogs and cats, and we really want to be able to bring that personalized experience online, for which we're really trying to figure out a couple of things to and make that happen.
Right. And when you grow from, let's say, 60 to 100 stores or maybe 200 stores someday, will you add franchisees and work with partners and so on and so forth? I'm curious, because again, that will mean a different sort of a challenge as well in terms of retaining the experience, right?
Yes. So we actually did start a franchise model a couple of years ago, and some of our cities are following the franchise model. And again, with the partner selection, we've been extremely picky, just making sure again there's massive alignment on the value system. So we've gotten hundreds of applications, and I think we just have 3 or 4 partners for now. But I think that we do want to be able to control the experience more and strengthen it more. So for the time being, we're pausing it and letting our partners run the cities that they have, but going into new cities ourselves rather than advertising and going down the franchise model.
Right. In retail, I'm always curious about how people add new products or SKUs, right? I mean, because you're a creative person, I'm sure that you get hundreds of ideas every week or every month, right? So how do you kind of filter the ones that will ultimately be successful from the others that are nice, interesting ones, but you somehow feel that they won't really add to the top line? So do you have like a process or methodology for that?
I often say that I think the biggest advantage that a startup has is the ability to fail fast. Right? You don't have to go through layers of approvals and many people sanctioning of budgets and etc. Like you have in MNCs. For them to launch a new product is like a big process, right? And startups have the agility to just try something, see how it does. Is it working or not? If it's not, close it and move on. If it is, great. So I think with a lot of our products, we've worked on, and we still continue to really connect with our customers, ask them what's happening in those journeys. They're not going to tell us I need this product. That's very rarely happened. But for example, someone may talk about struggles with a senior dog, someone may talk about skin issues, someone may talk about smelly doggies, someone may talk about bored dogs and destructive dogs. And then, we're able to take that back to the drawing board and say, okay, here are issues. How may we solve them with the product? So lots of design thinking from there. And again, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But that's the fun. So when we're launching something, we just do a quick test to see, how deep does this go. Small collection, sometimes it's surprised us, and both ways, positively and negatively. Where we thought, oh my God, this is such a great idea, and not very many takers, and then the reverse as well. So I think failing fast is so powerful, and we should all totally leverage that so much more than we do.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, actually. That's the single biggest differentiator that startups have over some of the larger brands, right? So, with some of the new consumer brands, we're seeing this convergence of content, community, and commerce, right? And considering that you were early in a category and you had to really educate people about the options available and so on. So, you also invested a lot in content and, of course, community as well. I mean, the pet's name, the pet parent's name, so on and so forth, right? So, how are you nurturing that community going forward?
Lots of ideas. Some of them came to a halt during COVID, and we're slowly starting to open them up. So for us, the community piece really is about letting more pet parents also help each other. Bringing them together in several ways. In ways like bringing them across events and allowing them to connect to each other for so many different reasons. It's about really building content, like you said, that can add value and help people with answers. Because I think pet parenting, there's so much to learn in that journey. So I think both of these pieces are so very important for us. And then the other piece that is super important for us is our foundation piece, where what we want to do is build out a lot of volunteers that can help us with our efforts. And we do a lot of work around feeding street dogs, reflective collar drives, adoption. I think what we want to do is just bring all of these passionate people together, whether it's for connecting and helping for their own dogs or helping for a larger purpose. And so, we're working on an app as well that can allow people to connect more on a tech platform, but also we really want to go out there and do many, many more events that can bring people together in person. So I think there's nothing that replaces that magic.
Right, right. And what else have you planned for the future? I mean, if you look at the next 18 to 24 months, let's say in terms of expansion, new products or categories and so on.
We want to continue to do the omni-channel piece. I think it's exciting for us, and we really love that balance of online and offline. So we want to go on to opening many, many more stores. We want to strengthen our online piece, build in a lot more tech functionalities, intelligence, personalization, so that no matter who you are, I'm able to really tailor my offering to you if you come onto the website. Like I mentioned, we're working on an app. We're working on a lot more products as well, including pet food and many other exciting things that are in the pipeline. So lots to look forward to. Also strengthening our back end and our supply chain, because you may be the best business with the greatest idea, but if you don't have a solid supply chain, you will just keep losing. And I think that it's really supply chains that compete in a business. So a lot of our focus is going to strengthen that as well. So lots of things to look forward to, lots of work to be done. Very excited about it all.
Amazing. At every stage of the business, right, the founder has to evolve themselves to meet the challenge for, the new expansion or whatever else, right? So, what are some things that you're personally working on to improve yourself?
Oh gosh, I'm always in learning mode. Roshan, I make it a point that I am really tuned in into all the R&D that's happening in the pet world across the globe, whether it's in food, nutrition, lifestyle, grooming. What are the new products? What are the new ingredients that are coming up? So, for example, have something in the hemp became really popular over the last 2 years. It's natural, and it went across grooming and food and treats, and so there's so much going on. So always be in there. I definitely try to do 1 to 2 courses about deepening my own expertise when it comes to animals, pets in particular, and constantly reading, learning from so many people out there. Reading is really my most favorite thing ever, and I really enjoy a big width of subjects, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, personal growth, spirituality, so many different things. And so I think just learning in general just renews my sense of hope, and it just kind of keeps me going. And so that's really my thing, to constantly fill up my energy. And I believe that the day you stop learning, you really stop growing. So no matter how where you are in your journey, I hope that everybody can take the time out to learn and reflect and think about their experiences and what are they learning from it, so that they can keep working not just on the intellectual but also on the emotional, on the heart center. And there's so much for us to manage, so many people, so many emotions, so much stress. And I believe that that development and learning needs to be very, very wholesome and not just intellectual.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So one of the questions we ask all the entrepreneurs who come on the podcast is that, what are some secrets of the domain that you operate in that are only visible to those who have operated in that domain for many, many years, right? So what are those secrets in the pet care market, for example? What are some things that are not as intuitive for someone looking from the outside?
I think it's a category with a lot of emotional intelligence, and it needs deep connect to the emotion, not just to the product and sales. As a pet parent, when you connect with that emotion of pet parenting, which can be quite a challenging journey, there are ups and downs. I believe that it just connects you deeper to the customer. So I would say for us, I believe it's that, because I see a lot of businesses, and it's not that they don't do well, but I still believe that to really succeed in this in the long run, there is a lot of emotional quotient.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, you need to have that perspective, right, to think about anything. I mean, whether it's product or marketing or anything else. So this has been a fun chat, Rashi. And to end things, what are some books or podcasts that you would recommend?
I have just been newly listening to Jay Shetty on Purpose. That's a really nice one. I love Robin Sharma. I think he is just phenomenal with the content and the insights and the expertise that he brings to the table. I listened to a couple of doggy ones as well, just again to understand what's going on in that space. Books, so many, so many. I just finished reading a lovely one called The Journey Home. Such a beautiful narrative of an American young boy who comes to India in search of more. And it was such a nice read. I really, really enjoyed it. That was a just top of mind. And one of my most favorite books is The Boy, the Dog, the Fox, the Mole, and the Horse. I don't know if I've said it in the right order. It's the simplest book, Roshan, but if you get your hands on it, it's just incredible. The simplicity of it is just incredible. So very hard for me to pick books, because always by my bedside there will be four or five that I'm really, enjoying deeply. But I hope these are just few that are top of mind that I'm sharing here.
Awesome. So thank you again, Rashi. Really, really appreciate your time. This was a fun chat. Yeah. Thanks again for making time for this.
Thank you so much for taking the time out and bringing me on the podcast. Loved our conversation today.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Startup Operator podcast. We put out a couple of episodes every week and a roundup where we talk about the news and events from the Indian startup ecosystem. Do share all of this content with your fellow startup operators. It could be valuable and insightful for them. Also, before you leave, follow us on social media. We're on LinkedIn and Twitter, and subscribe to our WhatsApp newsletter if you want all of this content delivered to your inbox. Thank you and have a great day.